Mic check, mic check. Mortar Masters Podcast, your host, Maine, of course. I want to first shout out all my audiences, my listeners, you know what I'm saying? Anybody that's active, inactive, just anybody that support the podcast, listen to it, share it, post it, repost it. I want to shout out to y'all, definitely. I put a lot of content in the last, I'll say 10 days. And it's all been receptive. I gambled a few things, like just trying little stuff here and there. And I'm talking about the Facebook portion of it. And I was very active on the Mortar Masters Facebook page the last week. And honestly, so for the YouTube listeners, or watchers rather, I put a lot of content that's not on the YouTube, on the Facebook. So if you do have Facebook, or if you don't have Facebook but you want to see the content, go to More Than the Masters on Facebook, and all the videos are posted there. If I have time, I may post them on YouTube. I wanted to, but I didn't have time. I didn't have a chance to do so, which I'll get into in a minute. But definitely, I got a great amount of support just from that alone. So shout out to y'all for that, man. Make sure y'all can hear me. Shout out to y'all for that. Any support I get, it never goes unnoticed. I know I tell you all the time, but I really and truly mean that. I feel like I get a great deal of support. I've been doing this for a good little minute now. People ask me how long I've been doing this. I really be shocked at myself sometimes when I'm like, damn, it's not 3 years no more. Damn, it's not 2 years no more. Like, next thing you know, you almost at 10 years doing it. And yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing. I love doing this. Is probably the thing I love to do most outside of being a dad. This is like my favorite thing to do. So shout out to y'all, man. Like y'all the greatest. Y'all dope. And I have people that have their own thing going on, and they tell me the same thing, like, yo, your supporters go hard for you. And when somebody is able to see that, that means a lot to me as well, because I know y'all go hard for me. So when somebody that's on the outside looking in can see that as well, you know, it's a dope thing, man. It's really dope. Real quick, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I got the shirt, so just throwing it out there. If you want to just message me, hit me up. I don't have, these just prototypes, but I like them, so I wore them. It's not, nothing has been settled yet, like far as like the dealings of, you know, how we going to split this, split that. But, you know, I can give my Cash App, and y'all can just message me saying y'all want a shirt, and I'll go from there as far as making sure I get one when everything is final and settled, right? It's green and yellow. That's how we doing this summer. So with that being said, yeah, make sure you go check the Facebook out. Shout out to Band of Brothers. Shout out to anybody supporting Juneteenth. I'm gonna just be blunt. I'm gonna be 100, right? This is the first thinking out loud that I'm doing since my grandma passed. And I've came to the studio to do a thinking out loud maybe twice, because I had these shirts for about a day now. I came to the studio twice. I had time to come to the studio and do one. And I lose my train of thought of what I want to talk about. Normally, my thinking out loud, I got like two things I want to talk about, and I can just talk and go, right? And I just couldn't do it. I didn't record them. I just couldn't. I couldn't set up. I couldn't do it. I can do the interviews and stuff like that. That's easy. It's just the thinking out loud. That's like I couldn't think, you know, without saying anything about her. So just real quickly, I want to do it briefly because I want to get into what I want to get into. So shout out to all the people that supported and that hit me up with the death of my grandmother. Anybody that knows me know how close we were and how much she meant to me and what she meant to me, as far as even me living in Augusta, being down here, as far as me doing a podcast. My very, 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 very first ever podcast episode recorded in her house, in one of our most iconic rooms in the house. I recorded my very first one. Didn't put it out, but I recorded my very first one there. So it just all go full circle of it meaning a lot and her meaning a lot to me, right? If you follow me over the years, from 2010, whatever, anytime social media and videos came out, I've always had her on my lives. I always had videos of her. I've always incorporated her in any of my jokes I was telling on Facebook or just things of that nature. If you worked with me since 2014, when she was mobile, you seen her come up to where I worked at and ask for her grandson and say, you see my grandson? And she would never say my name. She'd just be like, he's handsome, the handsome one, you know? And so she always gave me confidence as well. So shout out to my grandmother, love her to death. And so a lot of people that did hit me up, that knew me and that know what she meant to me, that know the kind of relationship we had, it meant a lot to get these lengthy um, condolences because they knew a little more than just her being my grandmother and what she really was. Because obviously, it's one thing for somebody to be your grandma, but when somebody's more than just your grandmother, it hit a little deeper. So shout out to all y'all, man. Shout out to everybody. I eventually, like I did with my uncle, I will do one, about my grandmother. Of course, I don't want to do it right now. It's still too soon, and I can even feel right now. I just don't feel like the energy is there to talk about it because I ain't got my thoughts together yet. I'm still processing everything. So shout out to everybody for being patient with me, and shout out to everybody that hit me up, sending condolences. Like I said, don't go unnoticed, and shout out to everybody that's giving me the space as well. Like I appreciate that too, because I know I ain't always the best at that kind of stuff. So, I think everybody that bear with me. I don't answer messages anyway, so anybody that texts me and I ain't text back, I kind of use that as an excuse now, but that's, anybody that know me know, like, I like genuine. You know what I'm saying? So anything that's been genuine, trust me, I'm not rebuking it. It's just right now I'm in a different space. So some days, like, it's days where I can go 3-4 hours and I feel like I'm normal, and then it'd be like just a bad 20-25 minutes. So that's new. So shout out to my grandma once again, and shout out to y'all for always supporting. So with that being said, I want to talk about Juneteenth briefly, but also and something that happened, and I want to compare it to Juneteenth and what it actually means. So in a nutshell, Juneteenth is just really about, a lot of people think we got our independence, our freedom, 4th of July. Well, a lot of America, a lot of United States did. It wasn't us, though. When I say us, I mean us, right? At least not willingly. So it still was a battle to get the word out that, hey, we're free. It wasn't no social media, ain't no Facebook, ain't no YouTube back then, right? Ain't even no real phone calls. Like it's mailing things, it's horses and all that type of stuff, right? So it took about 2 years, or I don't know how many years. Matter of fact, it took a few years just to get the word out, and I think it ended in Texas, Galveston, Texas, if I ain't mistaken, 1865. Juneteenth, though, doesn't have a day because no one knows a specific day. We just know it was in the teenths of that time. So our independence is a little different than white America's independence. They got theirs the minute they say, "Oh, you're free," but they was free before that, right? So it is what it is. So that's kind of what it is, right? So what we do a lot of times, like at least since I've been dealing with Band of Brothers, dope organization out of Augusta, Georgia. They have been putting on these events to celebrate Juneteenth and to create awareness for Juneteenth. So if you go to my Facebook page, my Warner Masters Facebook page, you'll see I had damn near each Band of Brothers had their own separate, like 8 to 10 minute interview where they talk about how Band of Brothers started, what it means, what it means to them to do these events regarding Juneteenth, creating awareness about it, and they talk about how they're going to celebrate. Mind you, this went from starting from a month, like starting from a day, to they celebrate for a week now. So you gotta give them kudos for that, right? Just for that expansion for a black holiday at that, which I feel like, when me knowing now that it's a holiday, like it's being recognized as a holiday for real, I contribute all that to them. I know it's not all of them, but I contributed to them because in my dealings with it, I only knew them to actually ever talk about it. I never heard of Juneteenth, and I like to consider myself a smart guy. I got a degree, never heard of it in all my years of schooling, and I had a lot of years in college. Like I didn't finish college in 4 years, right? So, yeah, and so like it's one of them things where during this event, during this holiday, during this weekend, that day, whatever, how you celebrate, whether you go multiple days, one day celebrating, regardless, it's about unity. It's about creating awareness is a big thing. I say awareness is a big thing because I don't want it to be 4th of July. I think 4th of July, when I came up, it was like, you knew the cookout, some burgers, hot dogs, hamburgers. Everybody's around. You see your auntie, your grandmas, they drinking and stuff. You wearing a red, white, and blue, but you don't know what you don't know. Like you got a nice outfit, you don't know what's going on. And I think what I want Juneteenth to be, I want Juneteenth to be that and more. I want Juneteenth to be something we celebrate. I want it to be something that we recognize. We wear the colors. We do everything that we did for 4th of July or whatever. But I also want us to know why it's important. This is ours. I want us to own it. I want us to create it and let it be something that we share, something that we have, right? In my mind, that's just what I want, So, and I wanted to create unity. I wanted to be a unified event. It's multiple Juneteenth celebrations that go on, and don't nobody say, well, you only got to come to this one. You can go to all of them. Like we do at cookouts, we go to all of them, cousin. We go to all of them. I want that to be the same thing when it comes to Juneteenth. I want Juneteenth to create a sense of, hey, look, we're gonna be together, we're gonna be unified, because it was the time where we wasn't. Because if we was unified from the get go, we already had the same independence. We didn't, because we wasn't unified. What I don't ever want is for us, or some of us, one of us, to be thrown in an event, to be putting all this work in that you put into these events, talking about out of pocket, talking about fighting with the city, talking about getting licenses. They're gonna put us to the ringer to celebrate anything we feel like is worth celebrating, right? Regardless of what they tell you. What I never want is for us to have some kind of undividedness over something silly. If you're gonna have some undividedness, it need to be under something that makes sense, something that's of a bigger picture, right? And I say it to say, so Band of Brothers, shout out to them once again. And I won't say this artist's name. I spoke about him briefly in my last Facebook Band of Brothers interview, and I had two guys on, but I want to touch on it a little bit deeper. I want to say this, right? People put in too much work for events that are bigger than them, for anyone to ever feel like they're one self, they're one person, them, their craft, whatever it is, that one entity is bigger than something that's bigger than the people throwing a big event. I know it's a lot of bigs in there, I'm sorry, all right? And I didn't like how something was handled, and I have to speak on it again, because that could be anybody on both sides, right? Not to shame one person or not to big up another entity, but it could be anybody. A lot of times, even with this right here, I feel like what I do this for, don't get me wrong, I get a lot of self gratification from this, but it's bigger than me. I'm gonna be about one person, right? And I want to do a sidebar and say this: my last interview I had on YouTube was the Trap North interview. A lot of people won't interview him. A lot of people won't recognize him, right? But because I am what I am, and I am who I am to what I am in the city, I have that anonymity to be like, yo, you gonna be on. I'm highlighting you this week, right? Because it's bigger than me. It's not about a number. It's not about popularity. It's not about politics. It's not about none of that. It's about what I like, what I see, and what I feel like you represent, and what you could represent, what you can be, how much this is gonna help you in the long run, and what it's gonna speak to about the city, what it's gonna speak to about me, my brain, all this stuff. It matters, right? It's bigger than me, though. So when somebody is throwing an event, and let's just say it happens, it's a lot of art. Art is very personable. It's very personal. It's very sensitive. Art is a sensitive topic. It's easy to get your feelings hurt. It's easy to get hurt. It's easy to want to lash out and just spaz out when artistically you've been hurt, right? So granted, I'm never dissing nobody that's been hurt on the art side. Do your thing, I understand. But in the same breath, when we talking about black unity, when we talking about respect, when we talking about freedom, we talking about things we didn't have before, when we talking about Juneteenth, that has to, those things and what it represents always has to be bigger than a personal issue, a personal grievance. And a lot of times we'll do this because we know that just because like it's me, I'm me, right? But there's another Maine somewhere, believe it or not. I might feel like it's not, but in hindsight, there's another me somewhere. And I mean, not saying looking wise or talking wise or charisma wise, but mind wise, or the things like what I am to people, there are people like that to other people as well. It could be that, right? So, and what we do a lot of times is we'll take a personal issue or something that's personalized is about us, and since we know that there's more than just one of us, we'll be like, oh, well, I'm doing it for me and those like me. No. You can't do that every time. And especially now when it comes to Juneteenth, now when it comes to a black event, now when it comes to a whole band of black people putting on this event that have been doing it for years and years and years. That is a spit in the face of what they've been doing, spit in the face of their craft. And I feel like as an artist, you don't want nobody spit in your face. So you can't do the same thing. You can't, I would never share an artist album, music, anything they promote and pushing, they put hard work and effort into to air out a personal grievance of mine or any negativity of mine. I don't do that with famous artists. That's why I don't do reviews and stuff. I don't feel like really dissing nobody art. People put a lot of time into that. But it's bigger than art though. But this is what I'm getting at, right? So what happened? I don't want to say what happened. Because if you know what happened, you know what happened. This is me thinking out loud. I just feel like it's distasteful. It's distasteful. There's no way you can. The only proper way to solve something like that is as far as you disrespecting a bunch of time and money spent, a bunch of hard-earned accolades, support from the city. People, when you talk about Juneteenth a couple years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, people yawned. They got tired. Like, yo, get out of here. A dashiki, get out of here. A pick, an afro, get out of here. Like, it's cool to do now. That takes time for something that is once shunned or like, whatever. And now it's kind of like, oh, word, let me get that. That take time, and that's nothing you can't play with. You can't slight it, right? I know these brothers for a good little minute, a few of them, and I feel like they've all put their work in. Tremendously amount of work, tremendous amount of their own money, fundraisers, you know what I'm saying? Off days that you can spend with your family. But nah, you out here, you cooking and you grilling to make sure y'all got money for the next team event because the city might not be behind you yet. It's not popular yet to do so. This is the first year they actually had sponsors and things of that nature. So that just show you how far they've come. 6 years. This is a long time. Just to go back just to put it in retrospective, I've been doing this for the same amount of time they've been doing Juneteenth. So when you think about that, like I've come far a long way. I got video now, I got lights, I got a MacBook, I got all this other stuff, right? Shirts, merch, all this stuff. Think about how far I've come and think about how far they've come. Like I can feel it's like somebody spitting on something I'm doing. I'm gonna take it personal, but also like I said, it's bigger than. And I appreciate how they handled it because it's bigger than them. They didn't even hinder how I would have handled it. Like, and I commend them for that. And that's just another thing, like, why you look up to certain people. Because the way that I probably would have wanted to handle that situation is way different than what they handled it. But I know they could handle it a way different way. But because it's bigger than them, it's bigger than a personal thing. I'm pretty sure they got upset by that post that was made in route to disrespect them, hurt their feelings, and just piss them off. Because it was things that was said like fake black unity. Like, come on, bro. Like, you shit. You disrespecting a lot of years of work, grind, and effort. All right, and then you talk politics. The thing I hate about that is politics is in everything. All right, I can say and tell you right now, I don't do the politics. When you quiet, you do the politics. When you loud, you do the politics. When you're speaking on topics, you do the politics. When you don't speak on topics, you do the politics. If I know something's going on, I'm not saying nothing, I'm doing politics. If I know something going on, I am saying something, I'm doing politics. Like, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, once you're in the know, once you know something, you're in politics. You have to have some form of knowledge. You're in politics. Because now you either talking the knowledge you know, you withholding the knowledge you know. All that's political. Right? Connections, politics. But we ain't gonna get into what's politics now because y'all know the game. But when somebody says, oh, I don't do the politics, and from this situation, from what I gather, it's just a situation where somebody was upset. They wasn't on a bill for a particular event, right? Cool. It's bigger than you though, but let's not forget that. Let's forget that. All right, cool. Now you're upset, you're not on a bill. So you take a flyer that was made, hard-earned money, probably spent on a flyer. You post it, and you post all your personal negative things because you weren't on the bill for this event, and you talk, it's fake black unity, it's this, it's that. Mind you, I ain't get too personal into that, but mind you, it's like, this event is bigger than one person, one entity. So even if there was a case, let's say you turned your music in, they said no, and you feel like, why? And you upset, even then I still feel like it's not worth what was done. We have to understand it's things bigger than us. This event, this celebration, Juneteenth in general, our liberation, all that stuff, that kind of rhymed. All that stuff is bigger than any personal issue I could have, any personal grievance I could have with a person, or just with something dealing with me. You have to know it's a time and place. It's a time and place to do everything. And I think that's super important in politics. It's a time and place. So when somebody say, oh, I don't do the politics, but you knew enough to know that that wasn't the right time and place, but you still made that move, which is a political move, because now people got to decide whether, oh, I want to be on the artist side, or I want to be on this side. Like, oh, that was wrong. It's all political. So don't ever say you're not in politics when we all in politics. We just use it differently. You just don't like a certain kind of politics. But let's go back into this particular part is from what I gather once again. This particular artist didn't even turn the music in, right? They felt above turning the music in, I'm assuming. I don't know. I'll let that person speak for themselves if they care enough. But once again, they're not into politics, so I don't know. That's political. I felt like, look, I know y'all said audition for this role. I know y'all said, hey, man, send me some of your best podcast interviews. I want somebody to interview this big person coming down to Augusta. So I want you to turn some in so we can know who's best to interview her. But I've been doing this for how long? And I'm like, I ain't doing it. I know you just picked me. That's political. Me not following rules, but thinking because of my resume, because I've been doing this for a long time, I should be grandfathered into something. That's political. Even that whole term, grandfathered in, that's political. That's a political term. That probably in your political science notebooks. Go Google that, grandfathered in. Like that's you're shooing. Like all these stuff, that's political stuff. So don't on one spectrum say not political, or you're not with the politics, or this fake black unity. But that's fake black unity right there. Like here we are. You saying you for the artist, you for the culture, you for this. This is the culture. Juneteenth is a culture. Black liberation, black freedom is a culture. Putting in hard work and it paying off is a culture. And you can't put yourself above that ever. I don't care what it is. Like it's a performance, if it's money, don't care. It's a time and place for things, and you have to make those decisions based on what you feel is right or wrong. And you felt like that was right, which in my heart, I don't feel like that. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you this. I hope the person watching watches to the end, but I feel like this. I feel like I don't judge nobody. I'm not mad at nobody. I do feel like it was wrong what was done. I feel like Juneteenth is bigger than one person. It's bigger than Brandon Brothers. They just the ones creating awareness in the city. But I don't care what Juneteenth event you go to. Go to them and celebrate. And let's have a good time. Let's be unified, right? Because that's going to be better for the long run. But I feel like this. A lot of times we lash out on things that we don't understand. We lash out on people that don't deserve it. So what I'll say is this. Sometimes we just need to talk, sit down and talk to somebody, right? So if anybody that's familiar with the situation, know anybody that can help, he probably has something else he's going through. It probably nothing to do with Band of Brothers. Probably nothing to do with Juneteenth. It probably has nothing to do with him himself, but it's probably something internal he battling. So I want y'all to go help him, and that. If you want to talk to me, I'm cool with talking about that. But I'm going to ask the real question. Everybody know that. But yeah, man, I just want to touch on that and just tell people, like, sometimes things bigger than you, man. Trust me. Like, it's a time and place for everything. Some things are bigger than you, believe it or not. And just because you got a personal grievance doesn't mean that you need to go on social media, boast, brag, or disrespect anybody about something you feel is wrong or right. Sometimes it's about the bigger picture and seeing what that is, appreciating it, pushing it forward, taking whatever you think a loss is, because some losses ain't even losses. If you took that loss, who knows, you probably had a big gap. You probably had a big W waiting on you at the very end of that tunnel. But because you couldn't take that, look, man, not thinking out loud. Get your shirt.